As the Switch era comes to a close, a new chapter in Nintendo history opens, the Switch 2 era. And with that new chapter comes new entries for plenty of games that have already gotten their game on the Switch. One of those is none other than Super Smash Bros. Smash Bros is in a bit of a weird spot, because the previous entry, Ultimate, is supposed to be the greatest Smash Bros game that anyone could ever conceive. It has the most characters, the most stages, some of the best side content in the series, arguably the best online, a questionable story mode. There's really something for everyone in this game. It's undoubtedly the biggest and greatest crossover of any video game of all time. So how do you top that? A large amount of people think you don't. You don't top that. Ultimate is the final Smash game, and those people are delusional. You don't just sell 35 million copies, being the third best-selling game on the console, and not receive another entry after that. A good amount of people think you just continue adding on top of Ultimate, and Ultimate 2 or Ultimate Deluxe, taking the game, porting it, and just adding some more characters, more stages, a bit of tweaks here and there, and voila, a new game. But no, it's not really a new game. But could Nintendo pull off an Ultimate 2 or a Smash Ultimate Deluxe? Totally. But I think it's more fun to predict something else. A new entry in the Smash Bros. Saga, completely original from any previous game. So, what are they gonna call it? They could go with another subtitle that's just another synonym for fight, like Melee or Brawl. Something like Super Smash Bros. Crash, Super Smash Bros. Showdown. But these fight synonyms have the unfortunate attribute being the fact that there's only so many synonyms for the word fight. They've been used in every fan project already. Not to say Nintendo couldn't claim them, but I don't know. I think it would be weird seeing Super Smash Bros. Crusade on Switch 2 box art knowing a fan game already had the name for years before that. I've seen Super Smash Bros. Legends thrown out there a lot. I think that's actually pretty good. I like that name. But I've seen it a bit too much in other prediction videos, so I wanted to be more original, and I came up with my own. Super Smash Bros. Eternal. I think it's a good substitute. It works just as much as Brawl or Melee. It invokes a sense of strength and represents these plethora of characters being eternal. And on that note, just to have something to represent the game itself, I also mocked up a cover. And consider this my prediction for what characters will appear on the cover. Looking at the past 6 covers, there's some characters who are constants. Let's just go ahead and not count 64 though, because it's just an illustration. Now, if there's one thing that's consistent about every one of these covers, is that Mario, Link, and Pikachu are front and center on every cover, which makes sense. They're the 3 most popular Nintendo characters. So with that being said, I made sure to include the 3 of them front and center. To me, it was really important to include Isabelle and Inkling because they're also really big in terms of sales, and in Nintendo's eyes, they're part of the big 4. I also included Marth in there because I feel like Fire Emblem's pretty big nowadays too, and it also gets some of that RPG representation in there. I also used Link's newer design from Tears of the Kingdom because I think it would be really cool if he had a moveset more inspired from that game. Which is a pretty good transition, because let's talk about the roster. So we all know, the big selling point of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was that literally every character in Smash Bros. History that was ever playable was playable again, all in the same game. It has a huge roster. So where do we go from there? Like I said before, we're not trying to go for Smash Ultimate 2, we're trying to go for something different. So, I may or may not have decided to cut down half the roster. I wanted to get really creative, so I forced myself to cut down so many characters. The full Smash Ultimate roster minus Echoes and Mii's is 77, and since 77 is an odd number and can't be divided evenly in 2, I went with 76. Cut that in half and you get 38. So we'll be cutting 38 characters from the roster. Now before we talk about the characters I cut, right off the bat I considered every Echo fighter cut. The main reason being that most of them play nearly identical to another fighter already on the roster, and cutting down half the roster, one big thing that I'm really taking into account is how unique their moveset is. Now I only considered 2 groups of characters automatically safe. This being the original 12 from the N64, I feel like Since they've been in literally every Smash Bros. Game, they're automatically safe. I'm not going to cut any of them. And Mii's. Mainly because Mii's don't appear on the roster itself unless you go out of your way to create them. There's no default Mii, so I automatically consider them safe as well. So without further ado, I'm not going to narrate everything. I'm going to show you on screen the characters I cut. And before we get into it, I am so sorry if your character got cut. It was a pain to do this, but it has to be done. So without further ado, this is it. This is the mock-up roster for Super Smash Bros. Eternal. Once again, I can't stress this enough. I'm so sorry if your favorite character didn't make it in. I had to make so many cuts, a lot of which hurt me personally to make as well. I had to cut a lot of my favorites too. But here, this roster, I think it represents the most franchises, genres, all while still giving the most unique movesets possible. The remaining roster is 48, so no, I didn't exactly cut half the roster, but just about. I did the math, and 53.93% of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's roster still remains, so that might as well be half. It was hard enough as is. As we said before, the 12 original Smash 64 characters are automatically safe. 8 characters originate from Melee, 8 characters originate from Brawl, 8 characters originate from Smash 4, but if you count the Mii's, then that score is bumped up to 11, and finally, 9 characters originate from Smash Ultimate. So all things considered, every Smash Bros. Game has a surprisingly equal number of characters each. I thought there would be one game with significantly more or less than another, but ignoring Mii's, Melee, Brawl, and Smash 4 all have equal representation, and Ultimate only has one extra. This wasn't intentional. I looked at Ultimate as a whole. I didn't look at every game individually, so it wasn't something I was considering when I was cutting and adding characters to the roster. My main focus when picking characters was obviously movesets. I wanted to have the most variety for movesets on the roster, but certain characters represent series that also don't have good movesets. So these characters here that I'm highlighting now are all characters necessary to represent their series, but I think they could all use moveset upgrades in one way or another, and I'll touch on that later. Did you really think we were going to cut down half the roster and call it a day? No. Of course there's going to be new characters in the next Smash Bros. Game, so let's just go ahead and add another row there. That's better. Some things to keep in mind when you hear the characters I selected. I'm trying to represent as much of gaming as possible. I'm going to talk about genres in a little bit. I tried to diversify the genres as much as possible. And I'm also going to try and be realistic. Now, obviously, I can just go the crazy route and pick the best characters of gaming of all time that haven't made it into Smash. but we have to be realistic here. The one character I did pick that is also the character I really want in Smash, I think is also a realistic pick, and I'll tell you that when we get to them. Every character I picked, I think, is a character that can realistically make it into the game. They make sense and they deserve a spot on the roster. I went over every series currently represented on the base roster of Super Smash Bros. Eternal, and tallied up each series on how they represent their respective genre. Here's what we have so far. Now there's a little overlap between series. For example, you can consider Mario representing, racing, party, RPG, but I'm kinda only counting Mario for platformer and racing. Even racing's kind of stretching it, but nevertheless, I just wanted to make it known that this was something that was very important to me when selecting newcomers. So without further ado, let's play a little fun trailer that I came up with for our first character. So in case you couldn't already tell, this is my personal pick for who I want in Smash Bros. No matter what. Waluigi's always been one of my favorite Mario characters, and before you come at me saying, "Oh, I thought you were trying to have a diverse and unique roster," I'll do you one better. None of the Mario characters on the roster do a good job at representing anything other than the mainline Mario series. Waluigi is a perfect opportunity to represent those games, like Mario Kart, like Mario Party, like Mario Sports. You get where I'm getting at? I also put a featured stage being Waluigi Pinball because I think it would be a very interesting stage. I think it would be cool to have another Mario Kart stage, especially one being as popular as Waluigi Pinball. It's surprising that he still isn't a character to this day. I know he's kind of controversial with his history, but I think if anyone's going to make it in, it's going to be him. Not every character is getting a trailer like that. I just wanted to do that for fun. So without further ado, let's get into the next character. For my second character, I went with Eggman. And mainly I went with Eggman because I think he's one of the more iconic villains that hasn't gotten a spot yet. I did consider putting in Tails because I feel like, Mario, Luigi, Sonic, Tails. But I think there's a significant lack of villains on the roster, and I think Eggman more than fills that gap. Similar to Waluigi, he also gets his own stage, this being the Death Egg Zone. I think this would be a really good addition to Sonic's stage catalog, because what do you know? Sonic has one good stage. Sonic's way overdue to have a second stage other than Sonic Lost World stage. I just think it has really good vibes. I like this area, and I think the music that would come with it would also be great as I'm playing in the background right now. So yeah, Death Egg Zone could be a good stage. Not much else about him, I just think he's a really good character who deserves a spot. For the third newcomer, I chose Rayman. I think Rayman can make for a really cool moveset, and there's clearly still a desire for him to be a character considering the fact that in Smash Ultimate, people were going crazy thinking that he was in the ice. So yeah, not much else about him, I just think he fits perfectly on the roster. Hold on. I don't mean to mess with the flow of what we have going on here, but there's two characters that I know for 100% certainty are going to be in the next game, but I don't really care enough about them to warrant going and doing extra for them. So I'm just gonna go ahead and slap them on the roster. I hope the fans of these characters are happy because they're gonna be in and you guys don't have to worry. Next up, we got the Chorus Kids from Rhythm Heaven. Now, me personally, I was always more into Karate Joe being Rhythm Heaven's character. I've actually changed my mind over time. After really getting into Rhythm Heaven and starting to play it more, I feel like Karate Joe, even though he's the first character of Rhythm Heaven, I feel like he's more stone-faced and he doesn't represent Rhythm Heaven as much as the Chorus Kids do. And also, when looking at how unique a moveset could possibly be, we don't really have a trio character, so the Chorus Kids are perfect for that. For the stage, I suggest they do something similar to the WarioWare stage, where it's like a bunch of mini games and you gotta stay on beat. Anyways, yeah, Chorus Kids, I think they would be really fun. I think Rhythm Heaven is an awesome series that deserves to be represented. Next character. Our next character is Arl from Puyo Puyo. Just like we did before with the Rhythm Heaven Chorus Kids, finally adding rhythm games to the mix, Arl would be the first character to represent traditional puzzle games, block puzzles. As you can see for her featured stage, I didn't exactly put a Puyo Puyo stage, but I think because of Puyo Puyo Tetris, I think it would be a really good way to represent Tetris in the stage form. How have we not gotten Tetris as a stage form yet? Like I said before, the roster is severely lacking in traditional puzzle characters, and it's kind of hard to make them when most of them are just blocks, but I think she's a really good way to represent a puzzle game because she's the main character of Puyo Puyo outside of the Puyos themselves. Our next character is Skull Kid from The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. I mainly picked him for two reasons. One, again, like I keep saying, we have a severe lack of villains on the roster. And two, because Zelda as a franchise is severely underrepresented in the character department in Smash Bros. In general. I think out of all the Zelda characters you can add, I think Skull Kid makes the most sense. He would be the most unique, and he'd just be downright the coolest, like let's be real. Maybe Demise would be cool too, but I'm gonna have to go with Skull Kid personally. Look at that, we're already on the final four. Look how far we've come. So before we get into the final four, let's go over the characters we've already added to the roster. We got Waluigi, Eggman, Rayman, Noah from Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the Chorus Kids from Rhythm Heaven, Arl from Puyo Puyo, Skull Kid from Majora's Mask, and Alear from Fire Emblem Engage. So, a pretty good roster, I would say, of new characters. Everyone is pretty unique in their own right. They all have different moveset potential. They all come from different genres. I think we're doing pretty good so far. Now, every Smash game has their joke character, so I didn't want to leave that genre out either. So, I did come up with a joke character. Now, what is a joke character, you might ask? Here's what I qualify as a joke character. These four are prime examples of joke characters. I think they're characters that nobody was really asking for, but they're funny characters to just throw in as a bonus. And they somehow always have good movesets that are really fun to play with, especially Mr. Game & Watch and Rob, in my opinion. Rob's the only one who's a little different because he does play a role in the Subspace Emissary mode, but I would still consider him a joke character because it's frickin' Rob. So the joke character that I'm predicting, I'm gonna let you guess. I'm gonna play one sound and you're gonna be able to guess it, trust me. Okay, if you guessed for anything other than Galeem, you're incorrect. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, it's Sandbag. Playing Brawl mods and playing Super Smash Flash made me want Sandbag as a character so bad. He would be such an awesome joke character. He would be so stupid. I've always loved Sandbag as, the item. So seeing him as a character, as someone you could actually play as, would be crazy. Do I even need to say anything else? Just based on everyone's reaction when he just got a costume announced. How crazy was everyone going? It was just a costume. Think about how nuts they'll go when a character gets in. I've heard people throw around the idea of Chris from Deltarune getting in the game over Sans, and I just don't see it. Deltarune is still too far down the line from being completed, and Sans is just such a well-known character at this point in comparison to Chris that it's gonna be Sans, if anyone. Again, we get another indie rep, and as for the stage, I think Judgment Hall would be a perfect stage because I think it encapsulates the message that Undertale sends. So yeah, Sans. That's it. Before we get to the much anticipated final two, let's just brush over really quickly some honorable mentions that didn't make it to my roster for one reason or another. To start off, Paper Mario. It's crazy that people have an issue with Paper Mario because other than 64, every Smash game has had at least 2 links and Ultimate had 3 links, so what's the problem with another Mario? And Paper Mario would be way more unique to original Mario than Toon Link is to Link or Young Link is to Link. Octoling. Not much to say here, I just don't think there's enough that differentiates them from an Inkling mechanically, but I could totally see them getting in as an Echo. Crash Bandicoot. Now, I originally picked Crash Bandicoot in the place of Alear, but I ultimately decided against it because I actually saw an advertisement for Crash Bandicoot that used AI, and it just further put the nail in the coffin that Crash Bandicoot is not doing great. I'm gonna be honest, as much of an iconic character as he once was, I think Crash's window into Smash is unfortunately closed. His opportunity was in Ultimate, when the revival of Crash Bandicoot was at its peak, but that's just not there anymore. I hope to be wrong, and I hope he can bounce back and make it in one day. But as it stands now, I don't think Crash is gonna be on the next Smash Bros. Game. And Reggie Fils-Aimé, because his body is ready. Now, I'm gonna be real with you guys. Since this whole video was half prediction, half wishlist, the second to last character was a character that was a prediction and less a wishlist character, so I don't really know too much about this character other than that it has a big fan base and that people really want this character in Smash. So instead of making a whole little teaser thing that I don't want to mess up and accidentally do something that is not accurate to the character, I'm just gonna show off the character, and yeah. It's Dante from Devil May Cry. I think it'd be a good opportunity to put him in. I think he looks the part, he feels the part from what I've seen. I've seen, only a couple of clips that my friends have shown me. But, yeah, I think he's a good fit. And so, we've made it to the final new character. You've made it this far. Thanks, I appreciate it. I've poured a lot of love into this video, and it means a lot that you made it this far. So, without further ado, here's the final character. And with that, the final newcomer of Super Smash Bros. Eternal is Master Chief. Now, he's probably the most out there character I picked, but there's been a lot of rumors about Xbox putting out a Master Chief collection on Nintendo Switch 2, not only just being on the console, but as a launch title. If that happens, I'm almost 100% certain Master Chief will be in the next Smash Bros. Game in some capacity. For his stage, I chose the obvious choice, the Halo Array. I think this would be one of those stages that are like, you kind of get a platform and you move around the stage. I'm not really a big fan of those stages, but I think it works here because I think it fits with the theming. And with that, here is our finalized roster for Super Smash Bros. Eternal. I tried my best to stay as unbiased as possible. With the criteria I set for myself, I think this is objectively the best roster I could have made. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to see what you guys would do. Who would you add? Who would you take out? I know everyone has a different opinion when it comes to making these type of rosters, so I'm curious. I think this is a pretty damn good roster. I tried my best. I hope you guys like it too. So here's the stage select screen. As it was with the characters, orange represents the Nintendo 64 stages, purple represents Melee stages, red represents Brawl, blue Smash 4, green Ultimate, and these yellow stages are either returning from previous games or new stages. So every stage that's not yellow was a stage that was in Ultimate. I just want to briefly go over a couple of things. For the small, big, and regular battlefield, along with Final Destination, I wanted them to all have their own distinct themes. So I found those online, and they all look pretty cool. I think they look cool. So yeah, I think each battlefield should have its own look. As for the new stages, I wanted to bring back Pokefloats because I love Pokefloats, and I think it's a great way to put more Pokemon in the game. Not that I'm a big Pokemon fan, but I love Pokefloats this stage. PictoChat X. It's weird that we have Flat Zone X, but we're still stuck on PictoChat 2. Like, can we get a combination, please? Or PictoChat 3? That would be awesome. The possibilities are limitless. It's literally an imagination game. Pac Maze. Everyone says you can't bring this one back because you need your own screens, but you can make a workaround. They can make it work. They're a smart team. Much better stage that's much more representative of Pac-Man than Pac-Land. So yeah, bring this one back. And then we have the stages that we brought out from the characters. So we got Waluigi Pinball, Death Egg Zone, Rhythm Heaven Mashup. We have Puyo Puyo Tetris, Judgment Hall, and the Halo Array. So yeah, solid selection of stages here. I like them. I think I cut out a lot of the fat, and I think we left behind a good set of stages here. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of just wanted to make a menu. I really like video game menus for some weird reason, and I think Smash Bros has some of the best menus ever, so I just wanted to take a crack at it. But I'm gonna use this opportunity to talk about some mode changes. So first, let's talk about Smash. Bring back coin mode. There was no reason to get rid of it. And Squad Strike, it's weird that it's limited to 3v3 and 5v5. Why can't you do 4v4? Moving over to Games and More, Classic Mode should continue expanding on the idea that Smash Ultimate brought about, how each character has their own route with different battles that is unique to that character to take. I think training should be expanded on in something like a Smash Dojo that has tips and full character movesets. I think creations, we should still keep the Mii fighters, like I said before, stages, and I think a spirit creator would be really cool. I'm not keen on the idea of spirits. I've always preferred trophies, and I think spirits are kind of just glorified event battles. But if you could keep spirits in with trophies and have some way to create spirits, that'd be pretty cool. I would say that. I think All-Star mode needs to return in its original form. Stadium mode will have home run contest, break the targets, and I think an all-new Smash Soccer mode where players get into teams and attempt to knock a soccer ball into, an opposing goal. I think that'd be a really fun way to use the characters' movesets to have a fun little party mode. And I really want Smash Run back. I doubt it's going to happen, but I think Smash Run would be awesome. Multiple maps, the ability to select the final battle, and that actually segues me into solo. I would love to see a story mode. World of Light was not great. World of Light felt like a glorified event mode. I keep saying this, but it's true. It was events with maps. They teased us by putting the one trailer that it had with voice acting in it. So with a smaller roster, I think it's much better to create a storyline around it. I'm not too sure how they would do it, but I really want to see it, because that first World of Light cutscene gave us a glimpse at how great it could be. Like I said before, I think trophies should totally come back. There's no reason they got removed. I know they said it was hard to develop, but I think that's a bunch of baloney, because they had it on the 3DS, and the 3DS runs like a potato, and it still had trophies. They're models. It's not that hard to put a model in a game. And the fact that spirits replace trophies just irks me the wrong way. If you're going to have spirits replace trophies, at least give us descriptions for the spirits, because you got to use your imagination. How am I supposed to know what this character is if I don't know anything about the character? So yeah, that's the menu. To close things off, I'm going to talk about the least polarizing subject in Smash Bros., which is the music. Everyone loves the music in Smash Bros. We can all agree on that. I think there's a pretty big representation problem. I think Mario is a good example, because Mario has a lot of songs that are lopsided, we'll say. There are 9 songs that represent the original Super Mario Bros. From the NES. There's only 4 full songs in that entire game. Why does it need 9 songs to represent it? And to make it worse, 6 out of those 9 are the same song. 6 of them are just variations of the ground theme. I get it, it's iconic. Arguably the most iconic video game ever. But 6? If you're a Mario spin-off that's not named Mario Kart, unfortunately you get the short end of the stick. Take Mario and Luigi for example. This series has some of the best music of any Mario game. It has 8 songs representing it. You might say 8, that's a decent amount, and sure, but 3 of those 8 are taken up by Paper Jam, which is largely considered the worst entry in the series. and Superstar Saga and Partners in Time measly get a 1 each. I want to yell about Inside Story only having 2 tracks, but those 2 tracks are really good, so I'm gonna save my breath. Why the fuck does Mario Party have 3 fucking songs? 2 of them being from Island Tour and 1 from 9. They're not even good games. Where's Spaceland? Where's Koopa's Tycoon Town? Where's Toadette's Music Room? There's so many Mario Party games. So using 2 games to represent the series of what are we at, like 15 now, is simply crazy. These games have a ton of minigame songs, so maybe making new music that's just a melody of the game's minigame songs would be a good idea. You represent the entire game with 1 track. Could be a good idea. You're probably sick of Mario by now, so for music I promise this next one is the last of Mario. While not as huge as Mario Party or Mario Kart, Mario Sports is still relevant and important as them. The music representation is better than Mario Party, I'll give it that, 7 tracks. But again, there's a trend. 3 of those 7, 2 being from the same game, are taken up by games that just aren't good and aren't popular. We should be representing important and popular games, not Mario Sports Superstar, which was played by 2.5 people. I'll give Ultimate the benefit of the doubt, considering the only Mario Sports game on Switch at the time was Mario Tennis Aces, so they couldn't use music from new games, because there wasn't any. But it doesn't excuse the lack of music from prior games. Like, not a single Mario Strikers track? I think a lot of people agree that Daisy is strongly associated with Mario Strikers. So why didn't we get a single track from that series? Mario Strikers has some of the best music of any Mario Sports game. Every character has their own genre, their own song, fitting with their own personality. A lot of the main tracks from Strikers has a heavy metal or punk rock influence, and I think it would go perfect with the fast-paced fighting action that Smash Bros. Brings. Less well known, since it only has 1 game, Mario Hoops. Let me tell you, if you've never heard this game's soundtrack, you're in for a treat. This game genuinely has my favorite soundtracks of all time of any game. And it's a damn shame Nintendo doesn't acknowledge this game's presence more.
Yay for Mario!
So yeah, that was half prediction, half wish list Smash Bros video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said, I poured a lot of love into it. I got a lot of stuff coming on the way. I'm going to be making a Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story video, and I'm working on a video on the history of Mii's. So if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.